We got some position battles coming up in spring football. Is the Miami Hurricanes wide receiver room deeper than you thought?
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I am Alex Donno. I'm a University of Miami alumnus, longtime South Florida sports radio vet, and writer for allhurricanes.com. And thank you to the everydayers for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. We're free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers, join today and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. So in our 7 days of spring football previews, we're going to break down the wide receiver room today. And I know that that's one of the favorites of our guests today. It's Tuesday, right? It's a Truth Teller Tuesday. Bruce Warner is with us. And Bruce, happy belated birthday. You had a birthday over the weekend.
Yeah, I did. Thanks for reminding me. I'm now 70 years old. And I played 5 basketball games on Sunday morning.
Good for you.
And I can still play. Not as good as I used to be, but I'm, at 70, this is my 7th decade. I started when I was 7.
Wow.
Back in Newark, and I'm still playing. It's in my blood.
Wow, you should be like better than Michael Jordan by now. 77 decades of basketball experience.
Yeah, 7 decades. What about all the injuries? Torn Achilles, torn rotator cuff, broken thumb, broken nose. Yeah. All right, let's get to the football stuff. Let's go.
Okay, so I have heading into spring football. I have divided Miami's wide receiver room into 4 tiers. Okay. So tier number 1 are the proven commodities. Tier 2, I just put one guy in tier 2 that I write as probably the third starter. Tier 3, next men up. And I think any of the next men up can definitely compete to possibly be a starter for that one job that's kind of open. And then tier 4 are the X factors. So Bruce, no surprises here when it comes to tier 1, the proven commodities, the guys who showed it on the field last year and are penciled in or penned in to start this year. That's Xavier Restrepo, 1,092 receiving yards last year, second in the ACC. Had 6 touchdown receptions on 85 catches. That was also second in the ACC. X is going to be a starter. And then I've got Jacolby George as the other member of Tier 1. 864 receiving yards last year, 8 touchdown catches on 57 overall receptions last year. We have a pretty good idea what we're going to get from both of those guys on the field, and hopefully they can elevate their play even farther with Cam Ward as their quarterback.
Yes, and as far as Jacolby George is concerned, you know who's been in his ear all offseason? Kevin Beard.
Yes, sir.
Because Kevin is a real straight shooter. He does not want to see any of that off the field or on the field stuff anymore. Or else I wonder if there's going to be, if he gets suspended for the first game. I'm just bringing it up because it's happened in the past. Somebody does something dumb and in the offseason or whatever, he'll be there, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure your tier 2 guy is the guy that we've been mentioning for the longest time. I think he needs to step up or else we could be in trouble. And that's Isaiah Horton.
You're 100%. 100%. And I put him in his own tier because I don't think there's anyone else in the same category as Isaiah because he seems to be the next man up. That's probably going to be the guy that's going to take Colby Young's former starting job from last year. Yet at the same time, I couldn't put Horton in tier 1 because he hasn't been a consistent starter before. And he hasn't done a whole lot. There's a lot of untapped potential there because last season Horton had 13 catches for 168 yards and that 52-yard touchdown against Texas A&M. So he doesn't have the stats. At the same time, in small sample sizes, Bruce, Isaiah Horton looks like he can be a legit boundary receiver.
Well, it's also because he's got the size.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, if he has the speed to get deep, that's great too. But I think he's clearly the guy that everybody has to watch. Clearly. I mean, you could talk about Ray and these other guys all you want and JoJo, but he has to be a starter, I believe, in order for this team to take the next step. So I agree with that. He's definitely tier 2, but he has a huge upside. Now, we're going to be at some of the practices, so we'll see some of the stuff.
Yeah.
I'm really curious to see a lot of these guys that we're going to mention today. I just mentioned Trader. He's in your next tier, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. So let's get to tier 3. I refer to that as next men up. And this is the most exciting tier because I get very excited by youth and I get excited by guys who are like ascending. So in that tier, I've got JoJo Trader in there, who obviously doesn't have any college stats because he's coming right out of high school. Everyone says he's looking really good in the offseason workouts. Former 4-star receiver, borderline 5-star guy out of Chaminade, Madonna. Ray Joseph is in my tier 3 for next men up. He had 6 catches for 36 yards last year, which I think was, a little didn't quite meet my expectation. Didn't get on the field as much as I thought he would the first year, but I think Ray can really step up this year. So those to me, I put those 2 guys in tier 3 is who I think are going to be a couple guys who get on the field quite a bit and even have a chance to maybe, if for whatever reason Isaiah Horton doesn't have a good spring or good fall camp, maybe one of these tier 3 guys could end up starting.
I think your tier 3 guy that you just mentioned, Ray, could get on the field if, and I don't want to say it's going to happen, but if X gets hurt or gets injured in a game and misses a game, Ray may be the guy that steps into that particular spot. And that's the spot that I think you're going to see Nye Carr fighting for some time in there. I think Chance Robinson is coming in later on. He's probably going to shirt Shamar Kirk, who was here last year, but didn't do much. He could be in that spot as well. Where are these guys, in your 4th tier?
Yeah, those guys are in my 4th tier. So 4th tier I refer to as the X factors. And yes, I've got Shamar Kirk in there. This will be I expected him to get on the field last year. He barely did last season, but I think a lot of times for guys who transition over from JUCO, there can be a full year of an adjustment. I mean, Colby Young, he did more his first year, but he really burst onto the scene his second year out of junior college when he came over here. So hopefully Shamar Kirk can make that type of a jump. So he's an X factor. I've got Robbie Washington as another X factor. I put him in the tier behind Ray because he got on the field a little less than Ray did last year. Robbie Washington last year as a true freshman had 2 catches for 27 yards, and I believe he preserved his red shirt, which was good. And then, my other 2 X factors are a couple more true freshmen coming in. I don't expect them to have the immediate impact that JoJo Trader is going to have, in my opinion, but Nye Carr, Bruce. Now, Nye, he's an early enrollee, so he's got that advantage. He's already out there working out, where Chance Robinson does not. Chance Robinson, who I really believe in, and he's a bigger bodied guy, but I don't think I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think he's going to be a huge factor this year. Is probably going to redshirt because he doesn't get in until the summer. Yeah.
Nye Carr is another guy I want to see when we go to practice, because I keep hearing all these things about him. We heard stuff about Shamar last year, that he's after the yards after the catch is incredible. We didn't see it.
No.
And Nye Carr, I understand. But you know what? All these guys we just talked about outside of tier 1, they have to learn how to block. I don't know if these guys are physical enough to block. They have a lot of smaller guys. And the other thing, all of these guys, every one of them, including Restrepo, because he's never played with Ward, they have to learn how to keep their eyes on us, their heads on a swivel, because this guy will break out of the pocket way more than we saw with Tyler. And, they're running their route and they got to turn around to see where this kid is, because his eyes are always down the field. So that's something they're going to have to work on a lot, not just running your route and then turning around and see what's going on. You got to keep your eyes up. This kid can make plays out of nothing. You agree?
Yes, I agree. Now, I want to ask you something else. Do you think the decision has already been made that they're going to be aggressive to add another receiver in the transfer window when it opens April 15th, it opens again? Or because I listed a lot of guys. Now there's a lot of unproved, because nobody really has stats on this team outside of George and Restrepo. So there's a lot of players that I like, but they're unproven commodities. Okay. So do you think Cristobal definitely wants to grab an experienced guy in the portal, or do you think he's going to say, let spring football play out and kind of see what we have, see what Kevin Beard can do with some of these younger, lesser experienced guys, and then we'll evaluate from there?
I think he's definitely going to look. That's not the same as definitely going to look and grab somebody.
Right.
I think he's absolutely going to look. There's no reason not to.
Yeah.
And if they have somebody that they really say to themselves, we have to have this guy, then they got to go all in on it. That could be the difference, because you can't count on Horton yet. But if they got another guy who was pretty darn good with a track record, as you say, why not? This is a big year for Mario. He could say all he wants, and the fans could say what they want. If they go 7-5 or 6-6 again, wow, look out. I just think he's not getting fired, but it's going to get ugly for him because fans have expectations, especially now. We've discussed the line, the defense. Look, the defense has got some issues. They got to put it all together. But offensively, they have enough weapons to really dominate teams, especially with Ward as a quarterback.
Well, and speaking on Mario, I want to dive into those expectations because just this morning, right before we started the show, I was reading this article, National 24/7 Sports, about the 15 power conference head coaches who have the most to prove this year. And not surprisingly, Mario Cristobal made their list. So what does Cristobal have to prove this year? I also want to talk, and this is a topic that's going to make Bruce's skin crawl because it's looking so far down the road. An ESPN story that talks about Miami's path to the college football playoff next year.
Okay.
Bruce is going to bring us.
They can't lose. They got to beat these teams that they struggle with.
Fair.
All right, let's do this and we'll come back.
We'll keep it locked right here. We're only getting started on this Truth Teller Tuesday on a brand new episode of Locked On Canes. And I'm only getting started with FanDuel. We're making money this basketball season, and we're loving every second of it. You can get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your first bet wins. You can bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays. I love the exclusive props and so much more. College basketball as well, guys. I mean, we're heading into the month of March. You know what that means. I know our Canes have been super disappointing, but I'm going to have a lot of fun come tournament time at FanDuel. Believe me, there's so much more you can find on there. So just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Thank you so much for making this Truth Teller Tuesday episode of Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. Hey, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV Channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts on Locked On Plus, our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now, available on the Fire TV free Channels app. Got the Truth Teller with us here on this Truth Teller Tuesday. All right, so Bruce, I think this is totally fair that 24/7 Sports, the national site, gave 15 power conference head coaches who have the most to prove this year. And Mario Cristobal makes the list. And I don't take that as an insult to Cristobal. I actually take it as a compliment because he is, from a recruiting standpoint and a roster building standpoint, he is overachieving compared to his results on the field. And that brings expectations, right? So here's what they write about Mario Cristobal. He owns a losing record in 2 seasons as the head coach at Miami, going 12-13 overall with a bowl appearance in 2023.
An embarrassing bowl appearance.
Yep. The Hurricanes are in position, they say, to potentially make a big jump in 2024 with transfer quarterback Cam Ward taking the reins of the offense. Miami has yet to make any of the weekly college football playoff rankings under Cristobal. Still, the Hurricanes are projected to be among the favorites in the ACC alongside Clemson and Florida State. Cristobal has proven success in recruiting, they say, and it is time to translate to wins on the field. I couldn't agree more, Bruce, especially when out of the 3 schedules that Cristobal has played, including the one that's coming up this year, this looks on paper like the most manageable of the 3 schedules so far. I believe Miami now has the best quarterback that Cristobal has had, during his brief time at Miami. Excuse not to take a big jump.
All true. Let me just take a wild guess, though. The Florida Gator coach is on that list.
Yes. And you know what? When I was reading through the list, I thought they weren't going to put him in there. And I was like,
no way.
Where's G5? No, they did. He's near. I'll give you the other coaches that make the list are Deion Sanders, which is totally because, listen, it was all smoke and mirrors with Deion last year. He was like America's sweetheart, and then the team didn't really do anything. So he's actually got to win more games this year. Sonny Dykes at TCU, Dave Aranda at Baylor, Pat Narduzzi at Pitt. They had an awful year last year. Mac Brown at UNC. I kind of feel like UNC hasn't really underachieved during his time, but, Dabo Sweeney at Clemson. They've got to become a national power again. Shane Beamer at South Carolina, Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss, Sam Pittman at Arkansas, Billy Napier at Florida, Jonathan Smith, Michigan State, Lincoln Riley, USC, Sharon Moore, Michigan, and Ryan Day at Ohio State. So I think that's a pretty good list. I think that they covered everybody I think that needs to be covered in there.
Why did they put Mississippi on that list? Didn't they? They were like 10 or 11 wins last year, weren't they?
Yeah, but the thing is, I feel like with Kiffin, they've been on the cusp of making the playoff, and now that it's a 12-teamer, I think they need to get in. I think and honestly, for Ole Miss, the expectation, it's a 12-team deal now, Bruce. If they don't make top 12, I think you look at that as a disappointing season for Ole Miss. I think that's why he's in there.
Well, that could be, but I don't know. I just don't know if he's in the hot seat at all.
Yeah.
At all. I don't know. Look, they're playing Bama, they got Georgia, they play teams that are pretty damn good.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say. The SEC is tough. If this was last year, you would have had Jimbo on the list, but he's gone.
So let me ask you about
the ACC. What do you think about Miami? You mentioned it. They could get into the playoffs.
So, Miami. So the teams that are technically favored are Florida State. Obviously, there's a lot of new pieces there. Clemson, who had a better year than people realized last year. Miami did beat them last year, which was nice finally. And Miami, Clemson, Florida State are the three favorites. I think though there's some teams in there that don't get enough respect, Bruce, because I respect Louisville. Yes. And Miami's got them on the road on their schedule. I think Louisville is probably a little bit underrated, and they did make the ACC playoff championship game last year despite awful quarterback play. Yes. And I also think I think North Carolina State probably a little underrated. I wonder about North Carolina. Obviously, they're losing their star quarterback Drake May to the NFL, but I wonder how they're going to be.
And the receiver who came in the game like in the last second. The Walker kid who had 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, Tez Walker. Yeah, he's gone
that morning.
Yeah,
for some BS reasons. And Louisville's got some of our former players.
Yes, absolutely. Don Chaney being a recent one.
He's one, and the tight end too.
Yeah,
who didn't do anything here.
Skinner. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, look, you could say it's an easier schedule. It means nothing to me because look at the games we've played in the last couple of years. Again, I'll repeat this and I'll sound like Mr. Negative, and I'm sure I'll get comments. I'm not sold on Mario on the sidelines. I'm sorry. I think a lot of people agree with me.
Well, here's something. So Miami came in at number 24 in ESPN's way too early top 25. So obviously, they do have Miami outside the top 12 playoff zone, but Heather Dinich from ESPN wrote this story where she goes through all the teams in the top 25 and she kind of outlines their path to the playoff. Like, how can this team get to the playoff? Here's what she said about Miami. She said, how to impress the committee. Take a knee. Just kidding. And Mario's never going to live that down, by the way. People will be making kneel down jokes 2 decades from now. She says, no, really, though, Miami can't lose to Georgia Tech again or suffer an upset because of self-inflicted wounds. Yeah. If the Canes are going to take the next step, they have to win convincingly against unranked subpar teams, and they have to earn a few statement wins against ranked opponents. There might only be 2 such opportunities during the regular season, October 19th at Louisville and October 26th versus Florida State. While the schedule is challenging with 6 road games, including the October 5th trip to Cal, there isn't a blockbuster game that's going to help separate the Canes from another contender that doesn't win its league. Miami likely needs to win the ACC or hope a win at Florida and a handful of other opponents means more to the committee on selection day than it appears to now. But when she talks about the kneel down and the Georgia Tech, I agree with what you said, Bruce, that I don't really care what the schedule looks like because Miami historically, they found a way to lose ridiculous games they have no business losing. So you have to show me, Miami had a really good looking win against Texas A&M last year, and then how do they look so bad against Georgia Tech and NC State? You got to show me you can beat the beatable teams before we talk about winning championships.
And they talk about players being consistent and doing things right, and yet I saw the coaching staff look like crap in the second half against North Carolina. Right, that they didn't do anything; they couldn't stop the hurry up. Yeah. But to me, not only do they have to beat Florida, they need to kick Florida's ass. They need to make a statement. They need to come out and, not a nip and tuck game like when Florida State played Florida last year.
Right.
They were missing like a million guys for us, and they still won. But Florida played them tough.
They did.
They got to go out there right out of the gate and smoke these guys and just beat them by like 3 touchdowns. And that'll start, because then they have a bunch of non-conference games. And when they get into the conference, just from week to week to week, they got to get better. They need to stay healthy, obviously. But I still think Miami has enough weapons. They should beat everybody in the schedule. Louisville on the road, they lost some players.
Yes.
And Florida
State at home.
They're going to be good. I don't care. You could laugh at the guys that left, but they're well coached. This team seems to be ready for every week when they play. They're tough.
Yeah.
And it's a mental challenge for Miami. And then, of course, if no matter what happens, the following week against Florida, after they play Florida State, they always go in a dumper. So there's a lot of things that have to stay on course for this team. But on paper, I agree with all this stuff. Yeah. You could definitely win 10, 11 games.
Yeah, there's also like they have a game at Syracuse that I think that's the last game of the year, which
it's indoors.
That could be it is indoors, but still that can be a tough place to play in that dome, and I think Syracuse is going to be decent, so you have to take that game very seriously. Like there are possible trap games on the schedule everywhere.
There's an ACC title game again this year, right?
Yes.
So it could be us again. If we're in it, could be us against Florida State in the rematch.
Yeah.
Could be Louisville. I don't really know who else could possibly get past and get into that. But I don't know.
And Bruce, you know who Miami's got to beat this year? You got to beat Manny Diaz. You got Duke on the schedule.
Duke. Yeah. It's at home, right?
It's at home. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's going to can you imagine if they beat us?
I don't want to. I don't want to imagine that.
The best thing would be us to beat them, and at the end of the game, take a knee.
Yes.
And then Mario will get a standing ovation. That place will go crazy,
Go crazy.
Take a knee against Diaz.
I would love that. Well, a Miami recruit, a committed Miami Hurricane, who we absolutely love on this show, is getting a much-deserved bump. We'll talk about that and more when we come back. It's a Truth Teller Tuesday. Bruce Warner is with me. Alex Donno with you guys on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. Keep it locked. And I know you're keeping it locked to Game Time. Guys, this is the only ticket site that I use because I know I'm getting the best deals, especially last-minute deals on the Game Time app. Guys, Game Time is the fastest and easiest way to buy tickets for all sports, comedy, and theater events near you. And right now, guys, you can get these killer last-minute deals on sporting events, all-in prices, views from your seat, and the best price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. You can buy tickets an hour before an event, sometimes even half hour after an event already starts. You can get these great last-minute deals. I love the all-in prices. That means they don't tack on those fees at the end where, hey, I think I'm buying a $15 ticket, but it's really a $35 ticket. Nothing like that at Game Time. Guys, the Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time is going to credit you 110% of the difference. Find out why Game Time is my favorite ticket app. Go to Game Time, download their app, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Use our code LOCKEDON, all one word, for $20 off. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thank you so much for making this Truth Teller Tuesday episode of Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Guys, sign up for our Locked On Canes Insiders Chat. Give you guys breaking news, one-on-one questions and answers, recruiting scoops. Click the link in the show description below to try it free for 14 days. You get text messages directly from my phone to yours. Try it free for 2 weeks, and then if you like it, you can opt in for $4.99 a month. Get a lot of added value on there, and there's always added value when the belated birthday boy Bruce Warner is with us. Bruce,
it's an opera singer Tuesday with Alex Donno.
I like to flex the vocal muscles. And by the way, speaking of birthdays, it's my son's birthday today, guys. So please join me in the comments and wish he's at school right now, but please wish a happy birthday to my son, Luca. He's 6 years old today. He was kind of upset that like random people on the street didn't know that it was his birthday. He was telling me, he's like, Dad, people are just acting like it's a regular day. They don't know this is a special day today. So we'll wish a happy birthday to my son, Luca. So from Luca to Luke Nickel, Bruce, Miami Hurricanes class of 2025 committed quarterback. He's been a verbal commit for quite some time. Obviously, Miami's got to keep him locked in because he can't sign the national letter of intent for several more months. But Luke Nickel has received a worthy upgrade. I'm waiting for 24/7 to wake up, but On3 has woken up already.
Yes.
And Luke Nickel has been bumped from a 3-star up to a 4-star. Here's what Chad Power wrote about him. Miami quarterback commit Luke Nickel had a great junior season, passing for 3,914 yards and 39 touchdowns, leading his team to a state title in Georgia's highest class. An accurate passer and quick processor. He put some high-level throws on film last fall. So, I mean, the 4-star upgrade, Bruce, I don't know if he'll ever make it to 5, but very worthy to be a 4-star. This was well-deserved and a long time coming for Nickel.
Yeah, except the fact that now he gets more pub, and there'll be more teams there. Not that they didn't know who he was before, but at 3 stars, he was kind of like below the radar. Now he's not.
Yeah.
And, it seems like there may be a fight with Georgia, but I think he's coming to Miami. I think he loves it here. I don't think he's changing his mind at all.
I mean, he's like we cover certain recruits that like they keep things very open, and everybody does things their own way. But like sometimes, like we talk about this 4-star linebacker Elijah Melendez who's committed to Miami. And listen, probably he'll end up a Cane, but he takes a lot of other visits. He talks to a lot of other schools. Luke Nickel, Bruce, to this point has basically shut everybody else down.
Yes,
like he's not entertaining Georgia. He's not entertaining other schools. I'm not saying that can't change, but as for right now, late February, he's been committed for several months. Luke Nickel is saying all the right things when it comes to shutting down his recruitment. So I do believe he's going to be a Hurricane. Yeah,
I heard you, whether it was yesterday, I forgot when you had Brian Smith on talking about Pickett. And, I keep reading things about, he's not coming to Miami. I don't know if he is or he isn't. I talked to his cousin. I talked to Booker. Mm-hmm. He told us he never was a Miami fan growing up, which is a little frightening, but they've done a hell of a job with him. But they haven't sealed the deal yet because he's still looking. I know LSU is one of the schools.
He took a visit there recently to
probably
LSU.
Ohio State, which is typical.
Yeah.
But we have a good shot at it with him, and of course his the other Pickett that we have committed, and then Booker's other son, who's going to be an offensive lineman, he's probably coming here. So maybe the family will pull this off. I don't know.
I hope so. These are our most important recruiters. Booker Senior, Booker Junior, Cannon. These are our best recruiters right now with them.
Yeah, Cannon's he's going to be a junior, but he's already 6'5", 280, he said?
Yeah, he's huge.
Yeah, he'll probably be a guard here, maybe a tackle. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think like Cannon and DJ, they play for the same 7-on-7 like Cannon's a line of scrimmage guy, but he's aligned with the same organization, so they play together, they hang out together a lot. So hopefully Cannon, being such a big Miami fan, is just dropping in that propaganda 24/7 with DJ.
Yeah, I just don't know if DJ is the kind of kid who's going to just be swayed by any of this stuff. He's got his own mind. He wants to do what he wants to do.
Yeah.
And that's why I think Booker doesn't really know where he's going. But so practice starts pretty soon.
March 4th, next Monday, 6 days.
Next week. And there's going to be a lot. First of all, I like to see who's coming back healthy. That's critical. I don't know who's sitting out other than Fletcher.
And I want to mention something. Fletcher's definitely sitting out, as we know. I'm hearing positive feedback about Samson Okunlola. I think he's going to be good coming off of his injury, which is good. Fletcher's going to need a lot of time, obviously, but I'm feeling good about Okunlola.
Yeah, I agree. But he didn't play last year because of injury. I don't know how much he learned while not playing. He didn't get any experience. Even if he would have played in 4 games for a lot of the time, it would have helped him a lot. So in terms of where he is against a guy like McCoy and some of these other guys, I think he's behind the 8 ball. He's probably the 6th offensive lineman. And they'll put him where they need him, obviously not centered.
Right.
And let's hope they don't need him. Let's hope he gets The other guys are healthy, and he gets his playing time, and he works his way in there. But as we said last week, knock on wood, I stayed away from my head this time. I have a desk. That, they were healthy all last year.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's going to happen again. But, the offense, I'm hoping that Ward is the glue. The receivers catch balls and run routes and do well. The running backs stay healthy. And, of course, the offensive line. And most importantly to me and to you, those tight ends. They are critical to
Absolutely.
a guy like Ward.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate your time as always. He is the Truth Teller, Bruce Warner, here on a Truth Teller Tuesday. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your day.
You too. Be well.
I love it.
Happy birthday, Luca.
Yeah. That's true. I'm gonna be at Luca's school a little bit later on today, bringing some cupcakes over to his class. So we're gonna do it up big, and we will talk to everybody again next time on another episode of Locked On Canes. We are part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.